The Galactic Council had been ruling the universe for centuries, keeping everything in balance, or so they thought. They controlled trade routes, settled disputes, and made the rules everyone followed. But in the vast reaches of the galaxy, one planet had been quietly growing stronger. That planet was Earth. For years, Earth had been a peaceful planet, mostly ignored by the Council. They saw humans as weak, primitive even, compared to the advanced alien species who made up the Council. But they were wrong. They didn't realize what humanity was capable of when pushed to the edge. It all started when the Council, in their arrogance, made a terrible mistake. They decided that Earth's rapid advancements in technology and their growing military power were a threat. The decision was made in secret. Earth needed to be kept in check. A plan was formed to limit Earth's development and prevent them from rising too fast. But the Council didn't know that Earth had already anticipated this move. In a hidden bunker deep beneath the Earth's surface, a team of scientists and military leaders had been working on something massive. They had been preparing for the day the Council would make their move. And when that day came, Earth was ready. Back in the Council's headquarters, a group of top-ranking officials gathered in a dark, dimly lit room. The air was tense as they discussed the fate of Earth. Most of them agreed that something had to be done to control humanity before they became too dangerous. "We can't let them grow any further," said a tall alien with sharp features, his voice cold. "They're becoming a threat to our power." The Council had been watching Earth closely for years, but they never expected what was coming. The humans had always been seen as weak, just a small, rebellious species on a backwater planet. But they had underestimated humanity's potential. And now it was too late. The Council's plans were simple: disrupt Earth's communications, block their trade routes, and prevent them from advancing in space exploration. They believed this would put an end to humanity's rise. The decision was final, and the action would be swift. Earth would be isolated, and its influence would be reduced to nothing. However, the Council did not know that as they plotted their attack, Earth's secret fleet was already in motion. A fleet of ships, hidden from the galaxy's sensors, was waiting for the right moment to strike. These ships weren't like anything the Council had ever seen. They were faster, stronger, and more advanced than any fleet the Council had in its arsenal. On Earth, General Maria Collins, the leader of the hidden fleet, stood in front of a giant screen. Her face was calm, but her mind was focused. "It's time," she said. "Activate the fleet. The Council has made its move, and now we make ours." The command was sent, and across the planet, hidden military stations powered up, and ships long thought to be myths began to rise from the ground. These ships, designed in secret by Earth's best scientists and engineers, were ready for battle. They were equipped with technology the galaxy had never seen: hyperspeed engines, weapons that could tear through shields, and cloaking devices that made them nearly invisible to alien sensors. The first wave of ships launched from Earth's surface, their engines roaring to life as they moved into space. The fleet wasn't just a show of force, it was a symbol that humanity was no longer a weak species. They had become a force to be reckoned with. Meanwhile, in the Galactic Council chamber, chaos broke out. News of the sudden launch reached them, but it was too late. The first Earth ships had already crossed into Council space, and they were not stopping. "The humans. They've attacked." One Council member gasped, his voice filled with disbelief. A second official spoke, his voice trembling. "Impossible. They're ships. We had no idea they could do this. No one warned us." The panic was palpable. The Council had underestimated Earth's ability to defend itself. They thought humanity was just a small, insignificant player in the grand scheme of things. They were wrong. General Collins stood in her command center, watching as Earth's fleet moved toward the heart of the galaxy. "We've waited for this moment," she said quietly. "The Council thought they could control us. Now, they will learn the truth." Her fleet advanced, cutting through enemy lines with precision. Ships that were supposed to be on the lookout for Earth's fleet were now facing a force they couldn't understand. Earth's ships moved with incredible speed, striking targets before the enemy even knew what had happened. The Council's response was swift but uncoordinated. Their forces tried to scramble, sending fleets to intercept, but they were too slow. Earth's fleet had already proven that they were not just defending their planet. They were ready to take the fight to the Council's doorstep. As the first skirmish unfolded, a young officer aboard the flagship of Earth's fleet, Commander Ethan Blake, looked out of the viewing window. His eyes narrowed as the enemy ships appeared on the horizon. He knew this was just the beginning. The Council had made a huge mistake by underestimating Earth. And now, they would pay the price. Back in the Council chamber, panic spread like wildfire. The once mighty Galactic Council, which had controlled the galaxy for so long, was now facing an enemy they had never expected: humanity. They had made a fatal mistake. They had thought that Earth was nothing more than a blip on the radar of the galaxy. Now, Earth was about to rewrite the rules of the universe. The galaxy was about to change forever. The stars outside Earth's atmosphere seemed to stand still, watching silently as the galaxy was about to change forever. On the surface of Earth, deep in the heart of a hidden underground command center, General Maria Collins stood in front of a massive screen. Her eyes scanned the data that poured in from her fleet. "It's begun," she whispered, as her fingers gently touched the control panel. The fleet that had been hidden for years was now in motion. Earth had always known that one day they would have to defend themselves, but they had never expected the Galactic Council to make such a rash move. The Council had thought Earth was weak, but now Earth had come into its own. Above the planet, deep inside Earth's orbit, the first wave of Earth's ships moved like shadows in the vastness of space. These ships were different from anything the galaxy had ever seen. They were sleek, with sharp lines designed to cut through space faster than anything else. Cloaked in advanced stealth technology, the ships were invisible to alien sensors. To the Council, Earth's fleet was just a myth. But now it was very real. As the fleet silently powered up, the crew aboard each ship prepared for their mission. Commander Ethan Blake, aboard the flagship Talon, looked out of the window of his command center, his eyes fixed on the stars ahead. The ship's engines hummed beneath his feet, sending a steady pulse through the ship. "All systems ready," a voice called out from the ship's control room. Blake nodded. "Let's go. We have a job to do." The first mission was simple: hit the Council's trade routes. The Council controlled most of the galaxy's supplies, moving goods and resources between systems. If Earth could disrupt these trade routes, the Council's economy would be thrown into chaos. Within moments, the Talon and the rest of the ships from Earth's fleet entered hyperspace, their engines firing up in perfect unison. The darkness of space swallowed them as they disappeared from view, leaving no trace behind. Meanwhile, far in the Galactic Council's headquarters, panic was beginning to spread. The attack on the trade route had been swift. Ships meant to protect the Council's supply lines were overwhelmed before they even knew what was happening. "What happened? Where are our forces?" One of the Council members shouted, his voice trembling with fear. "How could Earth move so quickly?" "Impossible," another member gasped. "They're ships. We've never seen anything like them before." The truth hit the Council like a heavy blow. Earth's fleet wasn't just strong. It was a complete surprise. No one had seen the ships coming, and now they were cutting through the Council's defenses like a hot knife through butter. On the Talon, Commander Blake stood tall in the center of the bridge, watching the chaos unfold on his display screens. The trade route was now under Earth's control, and it was just the beginning. He could already see the ripple effect it would have. The Council would be forced to react, and that's exactly what they wanted. "We've got their attention," Blake said, his voice calm and steady. "Now let's keep pushing." Around him, the officers worked quickly, coordinating with other ships in Earth's fleet. The plan was simple: hit hard and fast, disrupt the Council's operations, and then disappear back into the shadows before they could react. Back at the Galactic Council, things were falling apart. A warship, the Dreadnought, had been sent to investigate the sudden loss of the trade routes. Its captain, a battle-hardened alien named Zorik, was not worried at first. He thought it was just a small skirmish. But when he arrived at the location of the attack, he couldn't believe his eyes. "There's nothing here," Zorik muttered, scanning the area. The space around him was eerily quiet. No enemy ships in sight. No signs of debris. It was like the attack had never happened. Then the comms crackled to life. "Captain, we've lost contact with several of our fleet ships," a voice reported, sounding nervous. "We've also detected an unknown fleet moving toward us." Zarik's heart raced. He had been a part of many battles, but something about this situation felt different. The enemy was invisible, moving too quickly to be caught. His fleet wasn't prepared for this. "Prepare to engage," Zarik ordered. "We will hunt them down." But before he could give further orders, the screens on his ship flashed with alarming alerts. His fleet had been ambushed. At that exact moment, the Earth fleet appeared out of nowhere. Their ships came out of hyperspace with deadly precision, their weapons charging. Zarik's fleet was unprepared and outclassed. Earth's ships tore through the alien defenses like they were made of paper. Within minutes, several alien ships were reduced to nothing but burning wreckage. On the Talon, Commander Blake watched with satisfaction as the enemy ships scrambled to defend themselves. It was clear they were no match for Earth's fleet. His eyes narrowed with determination. This was just the start. "We'll hit them where it hurts," Blake said quietly, more to himself than to anyone else. "The Council won't know what hit them." Back on Earth, General Maria Collins watched the battle unfold from her command center. The entire fleet was moving smoothly, executing each step of their mission with deadly precision. Everything was going according to plan. She smiled. "We're making history," she whispered. But the truth was, Earth wasn't just fighting for survival. They were fighting for control. The Galactic Council had made a mistake by thinking humanity was weak. Now, Earth was proving that they were anything but. As the battle raged on, the Galactic Council's hold over the galaxy began to slip. Earth's fleet was relentless, and the Council's forces couldn't keep up. The galaxy was witnessing the rise of a new power, and it wasn't the Galactic Council. It was humanity. The message was clear. Earth had awakened, and nothing could stop them now. The stars outside the Talon glowed brightly, their light reflecting off the sleek surface of Earth's flagship. Commander Ethan Blake stood at the center of the bridge, his gaze fixed on the display screen. His fleet had made significant progress in their attacks, and now they were taking the fight directly to the heart of the Galactic Council's empire. The shockwaves from their actions were spreading, and the Council was scrambling to respond. But the Council was not going to sit idly by and let Earth continue its unstoppable advance. In the command room of the Galactic Council, the mood was tense. The members of the Council had gathered in an emergency session, their faces grim and filled with anger. The news of Earth's fleet cutting through their forces like a blade through water had shaken them to the core. "What are we waiting for?" one Council member demanded, his voice shaking with frustration. "We cannot let these humans run wild. They need to be stopped now." The leader of the Council, a tall and imposing alien named High Chancellor Rin, looked down at the holographic map of the galaxy. His mind raced, trying to come up with a strategy. Earth's fleet was unlike anything they had ever faced, and no one had expected this kind of resistance from a planet they thought was insignificant. "The humans have caught us off guard," Chancellor Rin said, his voice cold. "But we will not be made fools of. It's time to call in our full strength." A plan was quickly put into motion. The Galactic Council would unleash their most powerful weapon, the Oblivion Fleet. The Oblivion Fleet was a massive, heavily armed group of warships that had been kept hidden for years, designed for one purpose: to crush anyone who dared defy the Council. It was their last resort, and they hoped it would be enough to break Earth's will. "Prepare the fleet for launch," Chancellor Rin ordered. "We strike at the heart of their forces. We show them that the Galactic Council is not to be trifled with." Back on Earth's flagship, the mood was much different. Commander Blake and his officers were watching the situation unfold, but they weren't nervous. They were ready. Blake stood tall, his hands behind his back, watching the data streaming in. "They're mobilizing their Oblivion fleet," he said calmly. "It's the Council's last chance to stop us." One of his officers, a young woman named Lieutenant Sarah Connors, glanced at the commander. "Do you think we can stop them?" Blake's lips curled into a slight smile. "We don't need to stop them. We just need to keep moving forward. They'll underestimate us again. And that's their mistake." The plan was already in motion. Earth's fleet had been moving from system to system, striking key locations and then disappearing before the enemy could mount a defense. The Oblivion fleet might be powerful, but they would be hard-pressed to find and fight Earth's ships in the vastness of space. "Patch me through to all fleet commanders," Blake ordered. A moment later, a holographic image of his fleet commanders appeared in front of him. "The Council thinks they can stop us with the Oblivion fleet," Blake began. "They've made a huge mistake. We'll keep them busy while we continue to strike at their most vulnerable points." The commanders nodded in agreement, their faces filled with determination. They knew the stakes: Earth's freedom, and perhaps even the survival of their species, depended on this fight. "We'll do our part, Commander," one of the commanders said, his voice filled with confidence. The battle was about to reach a new level. In the darkness of space, the Oblivion fleet emerged from a hidden base deep within Council-controlled territory. The fleet was enormous, its ships looming like shadows against the stars. Hundreds of warships, all heavily armed and ready for combat, moved in perfect formation. The Council had finally decided to make its move. The time for negotiation and subtlety was over. Now, it was time for war. As the fleet entered hyperspace, the Galactic Council sent a message to Earth, hoping to intimidate them into surrender. "This is your final warning, Earth," the message echoed across the galaxy. "If you do not stand down immediately, we will destroy everything you hold dear. Your rebellion ends now." Back aboard the Talon, Blake watched the message with a calm expression. The Council was trying to use fear to stop them, but it would not work. "They're threatening us, but they're already too late," Blake muttered to himself. "We've already won. They just don't know it yet." The message from the Council was quickly deleted from the Talon's systems. Earth's fleet wasn't scared. They were angry, determined, and ready for whatever came next. As the Oblivion fleet moved closer, the first shots were fired. A massive battle began to unfold in the cold emptiness of space. The Oblivion fleet was formidable, but Earth's ships were nimble, using advanced stealth and superior technology to their advantage. For every Council ship that fired on Earth's fleet, 2 Earth ships would appear from nowhere, striking hard and fast, then disappearing before they could be hit back. The Talon darted through the chaos, its weapons firing with deadly precision. Blake's commands were swift and clear, each one guiding the fleet with flawless execution. Earth's fleet had the advantage of surprise, and they were using it to full effect. As the battle raged on, the Council's forces began to feel the pressure. Their ships were designed for brute force, but Earth's fleet relied on speed, agility, and stealth. Slowly but surely, the Council's Oblivion fleet was being pushed back. In the middle of the conflict, Commander Blake stood at the helm, his focus unwavering. He knew this was a pivotal moment. The fate of humanity's future was hanging in the balance. "We're not just fighting for survival," Blake said, his voice cold with determination. "We're fighting for control." The Council had made a huge mistake by underestimating Earth. Now they were paying the price, and Earth was not going to back down. The galaxy had just witnessed the beginning of a war that would change everything. And the Council, for all its power, was losing its grip on the galaxy. The war in the stars raged on, a deadly dance between Earth's hidden fleet and the mighty Oblivion fleet of the Galactic Council. The Talon, Earth's flagship, glided silently through space, its weapons firing with deadly accuracy. Every blast from their cannons sent shockwaves through the Council's defenses, but the fight was far from over. On the bridge of the Talon, Commander Blake stood still, his hands gripping the armrests of his chair as explosions lit up the view screen. The Council's fleet was massive and heavily armed, but Earth's ships were faster and more unpredictable. The Oblivion fleet had launched their full assault, but they were still struggling to land a hit on Earth's ships. "It's like they don't even know where we are," Lieutenant Sarah Connors said, her voice filled with disbelief. "We're hitting them hard, but they can't touch us." Blake's eyes never left the screen. He knew they had to keep the pressure on. Every victory, every strike was a step closer to crippling the Council's hold on the galaxy. "Keep pushing. They'll break eventually," Blake said, his voice steady and cold. "We'll take them down, piece by piece." Meanwhile, in the heart of the Oblivion fleet, the Council's commanders were losing patience. Their ships were powerful, but they were struggling to cope with the relentless speed and stealth of Earth's fleet. Their best strategies were failing. "I don't understand," General Zarek of the Oblivion fleet muttered to his officers. "We've thrown everything we have at them, and they keep disappearing. How are they doing this?" One of his officers, her voice shaky with fear, glanced at the data screen. "Their ships are cloaking devices. They appear out of nowhere, strike, and vanish before we can retaliate. We've lost dozens of ships like this." Zarek's jaw clenched in frustration. He had never been one to lose control, but this battle was testing his limits. He couldn't let the Oblivion fleet fall apart. "Deploy the Dreadnought," Zarek ordered. "It's time to end this. We'll trap them. No one escapes from the Dreadnought." The Dreadnought was a colossal warship, one of the largest ever built by the Council. It had the power to destroy entire fleets with a single strike. Zarek hoped that its sheer size and strength would be enough to turn the tide of battle. As the massive Dreadnought emerged from the depths of space, Earth's fleet noticed it immediately. The ship's silhouette was dark and foreboding, its weapons bristling with firepower. "We've got company," Commander Blake said calmly, his fingers flying over the controls. "Prepare for the Dreadnought. This is their last card. We can't let them have the upper hand." Blake knew this was a turning point. The Dreadnought was powerful, but if Earth's fleet could continue using its speed and stealth, they might have a chance to outmaneuver it. "All ships, stay in formation. We hit hard and fast," Blake ordered. "No distractions." The battle took on a new intensity as Earth's fleet began to concentrate its attacks on the Dreadnought. The massive ship fired back, its powerful energy cannons lighting up the dark expanse of space. But Earth's fleet was quick, dodging, weaving, and striking when they saw an opening. They were playing the long game, wearing down the Dreadnought little by little. The Dreadnought fired again, its shots splitting the vacuum of space with terrifying force. A nearby Earth ship exploded in a fiery ball, but the damage didn't seem to slow the fleet's advance. Instead, Earth's ships closed in on the Dreadnought's weak points, attacking from all directions. On the Talon, Blake's eyes flicked to the holographic displays. The Dreadnought was taking damage, but they needed more, one final push to break through. "Fire all torpedoes," Blake said sharply. "Target their engines. If we disable their power, they'll be sitting ducks." The Earth ships unleashed a barrage of torpedoes that flew toward the Dreadnought with deadly speed. The Council ship tried to maneuver, but it was too late. Explosions rocked its hull as the torpedoes struck their mark, disabling the engines. The Dreadnought's movement slowed, and for the first time in the battle, it was vulnerable. On the bridge of the Oblivion fleet, General Zarek's face twisted with rage. "What have they done? They're destroying the Dreadnought." But before Zarek could issue another command, the Dreadnought was hit again. Its shields faltered, and soon it was clear that the great warship was on the brink of destruction. "We need reinforcements now," Zarek screamed, but the damage was done. The Dreadnought was finished. The Earth fleet pushed forward with renewed strength, hitting the remaining Council ships with precision. The tide of battle had turned in their favor. "Keep them on the run," Blake ordered. "Don't let them regroup." In the chaos of the battle, a glimmer of hope shone for Earth's forces. The Council's mighty warship had fallen, and with it, their morale was shattered. One by one, the remaining Council ships began to retreat, unable to withstand the relentless attacks from Earth's fleet. On the Talon, Blake stood tall, watching as the Council's forces scattered. His eyes narrowed with cold determination. The victory was sweet, but they weren't finished yet. "We've won this battle," Blake said quietly, but his voice was filled with purpose. "But the war is far from over." Back on Earth, General Maria Collins watched the progress from the command center, her face breaking into a satisfied smile. The dreadnought was down, and their plan was working. The Council was on the defensive now, and it was only a matter of time before they would be forced to surrender or face total annihilation. "This is just the beginning," Collins said, her voice steady and resolute. "The Galactic Council will never make the same mistake again." But in the depths of space, the Council wasn't ready to give up just yet. They had been hurt, but they were still dangerous. Earth had made an enemy for life, and the war was only beginning to escalate. The Talon moved silently through the dark expanse of space, its crew still reeling from their recent victory over the dreadnought. But there was no time to rest. Commander Blake and his crew knew that the Galactic Council would not surrender so easily. "Captain, we've detected multiple enemy fleets heading in our direction," reported Lieutenant Connors, her face tense as she studied the holographic map. "It looks like they're gathering for a final assault." Blake's jaw tightened. "I knew they wouldn't give up," he muttered. "Prepare for battle. We got one more fight ahead of us." The Council had suffered a crushing blow, but their pride and power were on the line. They had no choice but to respond with everything they had left. In the heart of the Oblivion Fleet, General Zarek sat in his command chair, staring at the holographic displays of the gathering Council forces. His expression was hard, his mind working in overdrive. "We've lost our dreadnought, but we still have the Titan," he said quietly. The Titan was the Council's last hope, a massive ship built for ultimate destruction. Its weapons were capable of destroying entire planets, and it was heavily armed. If there was any ship that could turn the tide, it was the Titan. "General, we've also been tracking strange energy readings," one of the officers reported nervously. "There's something unusual coming from Earth's fleet. It's as if they're preparing something." Zarek's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean, preparing something?" The officer hesitated, then tapped a few buttons on his console. "It's hard to say, but the readings show a huge power surge. They're hiding it, but whatever it is, it's massive." Zarek clenched his fists. He knew Earth wasn't playing by the rules of conventional warfare. They had hidden weapons, secret ships, and tactics that were impossible to predict. But they weren't going to surprise him again. "Prepare the Titan for launch," Zarek ordered. "And all remaining ships, get in formation. We'll crush them in one final strike." Meanwhile, on the Talon, Commander Blake stood at the front of the bridge, his face grim. The fleet was ready, but the situation was becoming more dangerous by the minute. "Lieutenant, do you have any updates on the energy readings?" Blake asked, his voice calm but filled with a sense of urgency. Connors nodded. "We've picked up a strange signal from the heart of the Council fleet. It's a concentrated energy burst, something we've never seen before. It could be a new weapon." Blake's eyes narrowed. Earth's fleet had seen many battles, but this was different. The Council was desperate, and desperate people did desperate things. "We need to stop them before they use it," Blake said firmly. "Gather all ships. We're going in." As Earth's fleet moved closer to the heart of the Council's forces, tension filled the air. Every ship, every officer knew that this was no longer just a battle. It was a war for survival. The Council had everything to lose, and they weren't going to let Earth win without a fight. The Titan appeared on the horizon, a dark shadow looming in space. It was massive, easily the size of several Earth ships combined. Its weapon systems were glowing, ready to unleash unimaginable destruction. "This is it," Blake said softly. "This is what we've been preparing for. All ships, engage." The battle exploded into chaos as Earth's fleet fired its weapons at the Titan and the surrounding Council ships. The Titan fired back with overwhelming force, shaking the very foundations of space. Its energy cannons tore through Earth's ships, and explosions filled the black void. But Earth's fleet wasn't giving up. They weaved and dodged, using every trick in the book to outmaneuver the Titan. They knew they couldn't fight it head-on, but they didn't have to. They just had to keep the pressure on and look for the right opening. "Commander, we've got a clear shot at the Titan's engine core," shouted Lieutenant Connors. "If we hit it now, we can disable the ship." Blake's eyes flashed with determination. "All ships, focus fire on their engines. We need to take down their power source, or this battle will be lost." The fleet adjusted its tactics, focusing everything on the Titan's weak points. Explosions erupted around the giant warship as Earth's ships found their target. The Titan tried to retaliate, but its movements were slower and more predictable now that it was taking damage. The Titan's massive guns fired again, but Blake's fleet was too fast, dodging and weaving in the vastness of space. One by one, Earth's ships struck the weak points of the Titan, and the great warship began to shake under the assault. "Get ready for the final blow," Blake ordered. "Lieutenant, fire everything we've got at their core." The Talon unleashed its full arsenal of weapons, missiles, torpedoes, and energy blasts, right at the Titan's engines. The attack hit with full force, and the Titan shuddered violently. A massive explosion erupted from the ship's core, sending shockwaves through space. For a moment, everything seemed still. The Titan was silent. And then, as if the universe itself held its breath, the Titan exploded in a brilliant burst of light, its destruction echoing through the void. Earth's fleet erupted in cheers, but Commander Blake knew that the battle wasn't over yet. The Council had been defeated in this fight, but they would not forget this loss. There was more to come, and Earth had just made powerful enemies for life. "We've won this round," Blake said, his voice steady. "But the war is far from over." Back on Earth, General Maria Collins watched as the battle's conclusion flashed on the screens in front of her. Her face was serious, but a glimmer of hope flickered in her eyes. The Titan had been destroyed, but the war for Earth's survival was just beginning. And the Galactic Council had learned a harsh lesson. Earth was not to be underestimated. The destruction of the Titan was a victory Earth would savor, but Commander Blake knew that the battle was far from over. In the cold, vast expanse of space, there was no room for complacency. The Galactic Council was not one to let a humiliating defeat slide by. They would retaliate, and this time, they would come harder and faster. Back aboard the Talon, Blake stood at the bridge, staring at the stars outside. His face was grim, his eyes scanning the holographic display of the galaxy. The Council's remaining fleet was already regrouping, preparing for their revenge. "Lieutenant Connors, any word from command?" Blake asked, his voice steady but full of concern. Connors shook her head, her expression just as tense. "Not yet, Commander. We've sent out messages, but it seems like the Council's jamming our communications. They're making sure we can't warn the rest of the fleet about their movements." Blake cursed under his breath. The Council had become more dangerous after the Titan's destruction, and now they were cutting off Earth's ability to defend itself. This was the calm before the storm. Suddenly, the ship's warning systems blared. "Alert! Multiple unidentified ships approaching at high speed." Blake's heart skipped a beat. The Council wasn't wasting any time. "All hands, brace for impact," he ordered. "Connors, get us into evasive maneuvers. We need to stay ahead of them." Earth's fleet was still scattered across space, regrouping after their victory. But now, as Blake's crew scrambled into position, he knew they were facing a massive new threat, one far greater than anything they had encountered before. Out of the darkness of space, the Council's revenge came in full force. Their fleet, now united and more powerful than ever, emerged in a coordinated attack, their ships sleek and deadly. The ships were far larger than Earth's vessels and bristled with weapons, a menacing array of destruction. The Talon was quickly surrounded by the enemy, and Blake could feel the tension rise on the bridge. The odds were stacked against them now. "Commander," Lieutenant Connors said urgently, "we've got at least 10 of their biggest warships closing in on us. We can't outrun them, and their weapons are stronger than ours." Blake gritted his teeth. It was no longer about winning. They needed to survive. "All ships, spread out. We need to buy time and make it back to the Phoenix for support," Blake ordered. The Phoenix was Earth's largest warship, but it was still a few light years away, and getting there would be a race against time. The crew of the Talon worked with precision, the ship weaving and dodging through the enemy fire. But it was clear that Earth was at a disadvantage. Each blast from the Council's ships rocked the Talon, and Blake could feel the ship's structure shudder with every hit. The sensors blinked red, signaling critical damage. "Hull integrity at 60%, shouted Lieutenant Connors. "Shields are holding, but not for long." Blake's mind raced. He had one last card to play, but it was a dangerous move. The Talon's secret weapon, the prototype Nova Pulse cannon, was still untested. It was a powerful weapon, capable of taking out even the largest enemy ships with a single shot. But it was risky. If it failed, the ship could be destroyed before they even had a chance to escape. "Lieutenant," Blake said, his voice calm despite the chaos around him, "prepare the Nova Pulse. We don't have much time." Connor's eyes widened. "Commander, are you sure? It's never been used in live combat." "We don't have a choice," Blake replied, his jaw set. "If we don't stop them now, there won't be anyone left to warn Earth." The crew scrambled into action, setting up the Nova Pulse cannon for firing. The weapon's energy built up, glowing bright with dangerous power. Blake watched the readout with bated breath. This was their only shot. Outside, the Council's ships closed in, the massive warships prepared to finish what they had started. The first wave of blasts from the enemy slammed into the Talon, knocking it off course. Blake gritted his teeth, gripping the console in front of him. "Fire the Nova Pulse," Blake shouted. The entire ship shuddered as the cannon discharged, releasing an enormous burst of energy. The Nova Pulse screamed through space like a giant beam of light, its power unimaginable. It hit the lead Council warship with terrifying force, tearing through its shields and into its hull. The explosion was like a second sun in space, a massive shockwave that sent the surrounding ships reeling.